here with Bender.
And I'm here with Sydney, and this is BS Astrology.
What's up, y'all? Today we are going to be going over the week of February 3rd, Monday to February 9th, Sunday. All of the charts that will be up on the screen will be 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time so that you can kind of compare points and charts to your own should you choose. We'll also mention some of the degrees so that you can figure out if these particular aspects are going to be hitting you. And yeah, how's it going, Bender?
We're in it. We are.
We're in it. We are so in it. We're so in it.
We are.
Um,
Like Sydney and I were talking about right before we started recording. At this moment that we're recording, the moon is besieged.
yeah.
Sydney,
Oh yeah, I forgot to tell what time we are recording this. We are starting this recording on January 27th, around 1:39 p.m. The moon is besieged. It means it's leaving one aspect with a malefic and applying to another one. He's not happy, not cozy, not comfy, feeling a bit ornery because it doesn't get to have nice things. But we're doing it anyways.
it's worth noting.
Let's
Sydney and I did an hour and a half before recording just to talk about our feelings about stuff. So
Yeah, just to process what's been going on. And I'm sure that, this week has already started off very strangely. And I'm sure that the week of February 3rd is going to be no different. So let's dive in. So Monday, February 3rd, Bender, we have the moon in Aries.
we've got moon in Aries. Um, we're also looking at Venus is anaretic to Neptune and North Node in Pisces. That means that Venus is getting ready to leave Pisces and enter Aries later in the day. So I think that, like, right from the get go, we're talking about uh, kind of waking up from a dream state and entering into kind of an Aries vibe here.
It's like
Um,
Venus's last final message. It's like, did you get it? Did you get the dream? Because we're about to take off like a rocket ship.
we're about to wake the fuck up. And while Venus loves being in Pisces, Venus does not love being in Aries.
Yeah.
Uh, it's definitely, the planet of relating to other people is now entering the sign of the self and the me.
Yeah. She loves being by herself.
She does, yeah.
She likes
She's
doing her own thing and she's in detriment. So like she's just like she doesn't want to cooperate. She wants it her way.
right. And that's going to be supporting Moon and Aries as well. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, starting with that. And of course, Mars is still, Moon's going to be in Aries, Venus moving into Aries, and then Aries ruling planet Mars is still completely out of bounds and retrograde in
In
Cancer.
Cancer. Still.
Still, yeah, we are
Yeah.
still talking through it. And if you feel like we've been saying that forever, it feels like it's been
It's
forever.
because we have been.
It's
Because for months and months, we have had this really terrible aspect. But it is of note too for this entire week, and we'll probably bring it up a few more times. Mars has Antisha with Jupiter, and both of these planets are in bad condition. Mars is in its fall, retrograde, not doing great. Jupiter is in its detriment, still retrograde at the time of the beginning of this week. And these two are kind of in this like secret conversation, I would say Antisha is a secret conjunction where they're like, we get along just fine. But what we know about these two planets being in not great condition is that even though these are two bitches saying exactly to each other, they're not behaving well. And so I think that there's something here about this week that feels like um, information that is not true, not good, stuff that could be really disharmonious and like almost cutting because Mars cuts. I think there's a potential for like this kind of violence because Mars and Jupiter's kind of amping it up. It's like hyphy, like, yo, let's go protect. And Mars is like, yeah, let's go fucking protect. And so here we are. Um, I think this kind of speaks to, stuff around homeland protection, all of the stuff about winter boots, and how that is just not actually serving people. So we just need to kind of know that this is running in the background the entire week.
And just to make a point about the when we're talking about Mars and violence, particularly with that Antisha with Jupiter in Gemini specifically, which is about information and communication. This might be a really important week about understanding how words and information can be used as violence. Whether it's in terms of propaganda, whether it's in terms of being disingenuous or dishonest with people around you, or having people being dishonest toward you. Thinking about all the ways where I think the funny phrase is sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will hurt forever.
Mhm.
So definitely there could be some vibes with this
Or
Mars
the
and
kind of decrees, like propaganda decrees that are being, proliferated amongst our world right now that is literally tearing families apart, Mars and Cancer, and so
yeah, ripping
ah,
apart ripping apart the institutions that we have sort of relied on, institutions,
protect families at home.
yeah, families, home, all of that stuff. Uh,
Yeah.
even how we communicate with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for that Monday, we keep these things in mind, and it's kind of interesting that Monday really actually just starts void of course. So 2:19 a.m., this is Pacific Standard Time. We have the moon in Aries square Mars in Cancer. That's a spicy aspect, not great. I wouldn't be surprised if like people maybe had dreams of violence or just like woke up in the
Cardinal, though, it's a cardinal square, so we're talking about like violence right on its face and
yeah,
conflict. It's-
conflict.
yeah.
Conflict energy. I mean, you could be asleep and then all of a sudden you're just awake and like adrenaline. It feels like adrenaline that square, kind of being waken up from the dream. And then the void of course happens. And so when the moon goes void of course, it's just not making any aspects to any other planets, any of the traditional planets. We're doing the traditional void of course method here. And so in terms of like getting things done to like start an action, nothing's really going to come to it. And one of the little tips around void of courses that I got from Anne Orderly, I love her, is never go grocery shopping when the moon is void of course, because you're going to buy a whole bunch of food that is not, you're not going to eat it.
Yeah.
You're going to just decide to go out and have McDonald's, or, you're going to decide to go out for a meal instead, or you're just going to like eat old leftovers. And then before you know it, you're like, why did I even buy this? I didn't even
Mhm.
eat it. And then it goes bad. So it's kind of that thing. That's what it kind of feels like. Um, yeah.
First time,
So we have, ooh, what?
the first time I'm hearing this advice, and this might explain so much of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. I really
think
do.
I've been grocery shopping during void of course my whole life.
Yeah, I try to make sure that the moon isn't void, of course, when I go grocery shopping. And I mean, that's kind of like a weird, like witchy practical tip, but really useful right now because groceries are so wildly expensive that like we want to make sure that we're actually consuming the things that we are eating, that we actually buy to eat. And so that's a tip. You can thank Anne for that. I'm passing it along to all of you. Um, so moon void of course, don't buy groceries.
Don't buy groceries.
Don't launch a project,
Yeah, no, not a great time for doing projects of any
don't
kind.
press go. Like you can make your plans, but like don't press go on the thing.
Make
And
sure
then oh,
whatever plans. Sorry, and make sure you revisit any plans that you made during void of course before you go through with them. Just
exactly. Yeah. And then we have the moon will enter Taurus.
Mhm.
which we love the moon entering Taurus. The void of course will end. That is in the evening, 7:34 p.m. So then we get kind of cozy vibes, kind of, for a moment, because then we have Venus entering Aries.
Yep, Venus will enter Aries at the end of that day. Do we want to move on to Tuesday from
Yeah,
there?
I mean I would say like the closing aspect
Mm.
of the
It's
moon that evening is the moon square Pluto. So,
late, so you very well could be asleep or just getting ready to go to bed.
yeah.
Um, but it wouldn't surprise me if lots of folks are processing tough feelings in their dreams at this point in time. Um,
Yeah.
especially with
It's an opening square too, so it's more anxious, and a little bit more crisis feeling, I would say. Like, yeah, it's
losing
go to
sleep.
sleep.
have, you could be having trouble sleeping around this time, particularly with all of this, with
Weird energy.
and with all of this energy moving to Aries. You know, Aries is very much like wake up, let's get going, let's like get started on things. Um, and so
Yeah.
and like there's a lot of other contentious energy that might not be great for that Aries energy, like Mars continuing to be out of bounds in Cancer retrograde. These are all there's a lot of things that are working against Aries energy right now. uh,
Yeah. We can only pray that there's a little bit of reception between Venus and Aries and Mars and Cancer, that it's not as spicy as it could be. But I just think with that out of boundsness, that we're not going to get exactly what we want. So,
like I think
uh,
that that reception is going to happen, but it's not going to be like really focused, right? Like you said, it's not going to be what you think it is.
yeah.
Hmm.
So let's move on to Tuesday, February 4th. Um, really early in the morning, we have Jupiter in Gemini finally turning direct at 11 degrees. Um, this is important because for all of those folks that, you know, so for instance, I have Jupiter in Gemini is going through my 10th house by whole sign. So it's all about, career, reputation, like the kind of, work projects, all of that kind of stuff. And when Jupiter went into Gemini, I had a whole bunch of kind of big work things kind of thrown my way. Jupiter went retrograde and everything, like too much, lots of stuff I wanted to whittle away. Some things were kind of ripped away all of a sudden, not great, but also okay. Like I figure the universe, but like everything in my 10th house feels real messed up. So I'm really excited for it's a benefic planet to go direct and finally start kind of offering some blessings. Sure, the blessings are a little messed up. Like it's Jupiter and Gemini, but it's still blessings and we need those right now. So wherever that is in people's charts, I'm hoping that we're going to start to feel a little bit of forward motion and things kind of working a little bit better, if not perfect.
Yeah. And just like pinpointing just what you said about just like that excess of information and excess of energy. I
Yeah.
think that's a huge part of Jupiter being retrograde, right? Is it where Jupiter expands things when it goes retrograde, it's still expanding, but almost like the balloon's about to pop, you know,
Yeah,
like
internally, you're just like
you're like, I can't hold all this stuff.
yeah.
Um, because same thing happened for me definitely since Jupiter has been retrograde. It's almost been like yeah, I don't want to say an embarrassment of riches, but the riches are in like a greasy paper bag, you know, where it's like,
Yeah. You're like,
like
oh, do I
really good.
really need this?
There's a really good cheesesteak in there, but it doesn't look very appetizing in this greasy bag. Um,
Yeah, and maybe actually you don't need it at all. Like, and it's also hard because with what's going on in the world right now, we're all trying to kind of receive the good things that we can. So we're like, I mean, this is a blessing. I should take it, right?
yeah,
Thank you. Even though
yeah,
it's going to give you heartburn.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. That's actually a great way to think about it. Is like feeling like you're supposed to, like you have to take what's been given to you,
Yeah.
if it's not actually necessarily good for us. Um, And so
Yeah.
that's a great way to think about what you might have been dealing with the last couple of months on a personal level. Think about like where Jupiter has been moving through in your own chart and what house it's been moving through, but also in the bigger picture, when obviously a lot of information has been coming to us, and I think there's a lot of questions of um, like, are we supposed to just take things as they are? Are we supposed to just like make the best of this, or like be
Yeah.
satisfied with this? And it's almost kind of being like forced in our faces, right?
And
Especially.
we've just been following it because of that retrograde kind of stuff. We're just internalizing, and searching internally for through all of this information that's kind of being mined right now and now going direct. I'm
Mhm.
hoping that the right things will start to kind of flow out or we'll be able to see the right way forward, but there's many paths.
And that's an important thing because Jupiter obviously will be more comfortable when it's no longer retrograde. But the moment that it turns direct is that pivot point, right? So that
Yeah.
moment that it turns direct is not going to be the moment where it's necessarily going to all of a sudden all feel easy and flowy. It is literally like that decision point where it's like, okay, you've gotten all this information, and yeah, now you see the paths in front of you. Which one are you going to take? So
Yeah.
that's going to be and it happens early in the morning on Tuesday, like middle of the night kind of vibe. So you won't necessarily feel that pivot point immediately unless you work night shifts or something.
I do
Um,
wonder if we're going to wake up to like a lot more information all of a sudden, like if we're on social media, like floods of different information from like around the world, like mm, propaganda again, disinfo, because Jupiter is still in its detriment, even though he's gaining a bit of dignity because he's now direct. So he's not as damaged, but he's still not great.
I would say, like, if anything, just because we've already been seeing the propaganda machine gearing up, right? We've seen it with the
Mhm.
TikTok drama that happened. We're seeing it with Mark Zuckerberg like
Yep.
fully on the fascist train. All of these communication systems and social media systems that we have relied on uh, to be an interconnected community all this time is very much at risk of becoming part of that propaganda machine. Already seeing that happen.
Mhm.
Definitely, we saw the thing where Meta like automatically made a bunch of Instagram users follow Donald
Mhm.
Trump.
Oh,
Yeah, I have a
and
friend who,
JD Vance.
and yeah, and JD Vance. Yeah, so you're already seeing that stuff happening. So with J- Jupiter going direct, I'm almost wondering if it's kind of like, okay, we've seen the warning signs. Now it's just going to go full tilt, but we know that that's what's happening now. Uh,
Yeah. And considering that in the evening we have that moon in Taurus square Mercury in Aquarius, right? So there's some sort of conversation here that's, pretty uncomfortable. And Jupiter in Gemini is ruled by that Mercury in Aquarius about the future, these future thoughts, these conversations about the best way forward for our collective future. There's, new inventive ideas. And I'm like, maybe these ideas aren't so good, but we're gonna find out. But that's
And
kind of the
also, again, like this is like important to keep in mind. The mainstream conversation happening right now is definitely like probably doesn't feel very good. But this is also great energy for those of us who do not agree with what the mainstream is happening with what's happening in the mainstream right now. Um, that can also be a point of tension that we're just having to speak up more about, what doesn't feel right to us.
yeah. Yeah, lots more ideas coming through. Maybe, yeah. But that's kind of the biggest feature of Tuesday, February 4th, is that Jupiter turning direct. So, over the top energy again, especially when things are pivoting, they're turning and, turning direct, they're turning retrograde, whatever it is, there's an amplification of energy in that moment. So,
So on Tuesday, whatever energy has been heaped on you for the last couple months, Tuesday is a good day to finally say, okay, what of this can I use? What
yeah.
see for?
Yeah, it's definitely, I think potentially a day that really, 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 really needs our discernment. really needs us to be extra good and extra responsible with communication and with information and make sure that whatever is being shared and proliferated isn't false. I mean, unless that's your thing. Like, also a great time for mischief, but like, let's not, because we don't need that right now. Um, let's move forward.
I'm trying to imagine the scenario in which it's like, if unless you're a liar and that's good for you. I'm like,
Yeah,
when is
I mean, I'm sure that there's lots of people that use this for nefarious reasons. We know that there are, MAGA astrologers. They exist, but let's move forward. Let's pivot
that? When
to Wednesday, February 5th.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, so this day, I would say that this is a day to give yourself permission to rest because you're
Yeah.
not going to get anything done. Void, of course, begins probably before you wake up around
Yep.
4:16 a.m. Um, that's when the moon in Taurus is going to sextile Mars retrograde in Cancer.
Mhm.
So that's like a nice cozy sextile, but the void, of course, begins at this time and is going to continue throughout the day until 10:44 p.m. So probably around the time you go to bed. And
Yeah.
the only notable aspect happening throughout the day besides this is Moon in Taurus sextiling Neptune, which is also just kind of a dreamy, uh,
Yeah.
emotional, kind of inward kind of aspect. It will definitely probably be felt more internally between Moon and Neptune. So really not a big busy day on Wednesday. I wouldn't.
I do think so. I was just going back and thinking about that in Tisha with Mars and Jupiter. If we kind of think about the moon in Taurus potentially being in sextile to that aspect, I'm wondering if there's something about our food.
Okay, like
I'm
we
wondering.
before the recording we were talking about food shortage.
Yeah, yeah. I'm wondering if there's maybe something that we come to understand about like food supply, sustenance. I think that kind of holds for us all week.
Yep.
So I'm interested in what we find out, especially because later on in this week we'll have that sextile to Uranus. I think it's later on that will possibly definitely not until Sunday where we have something that I think is very much about our food supply and
It's
information about it.
it's interesting you say that because when we were back on Monday when we were talking like the Monday that we're talking about right
Yes.
now, talking about void,
February 3rd.
yeah, February 3rd. Void of course ends as moon enters Taurus, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, kind of this whole week, maybe there are conversations to be had around food, value systems, how we nourish ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that uh, even as Sid and I are talking now, we know that there are a lot of conversations happening around food supply. Um, again, just thinking big picture for the United States. ICE raids have begun, deportations have begun, and we're now starting to see um, migrant workers starting to hide or not show up for work um,
Mm-hmm.
because they're trying to hide from being deported. And those are the people who we depend on for our food supply because they are the fruit pickers, they are the packers, they are they work, they are
They're
the
essential
backbone
workers.
of our food systems, literally. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, definitely big conversations happening around that. Obviously, like there's bird flu stuff going on that's probably causing some issues with poultry and egg supply. So we are seeing a lot of and the tariffs that are coming. So we're probably going to see a lot of changes with our imported food systems.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of things that could potentially be affecting our food systems right now, and we're all already feeling the pinch of
Yeah.
crazy grocery prices, right? So maybe we'll start seeing some of this stuff kind of all culminating and coming to a head this week.
Yeah. Yeah. So later on in that evening, void of course all day, probably, hopefully, fingers crossed. We'll say fingers crossed this day feels pretty chill. Not a lot happening, maybe some information coming out about food, future things around that, but like hopefully pretty chill for everybody.
For
Uh
just today, might be a good day to eat some comfort food.
yeah.
Eat your
Get
feel
your hands on an egg and you eat eggs. Do that because they're not going to happen for a long time.
right. Eat your favorite things now while you still can.
Oh, we're bleak. Okay. But it late in the evening, the moon will enter Gemini, void of course will end. But then we get to Thursday, February 6th. Now we have the moon in Gemini, which is, a chatty moon. I have a moon in Gemini natally, so like I really resonate with needing information, needing to externally process emotion, needing to talk it out,
Mhm.
needing stimulus, a lot of stimulus. Um, and so I think there's a little bit more today around active conversation.
I kind of think there's a lot around it because with that contact with Venus,
Yeah.
as there's so much external processing that Moon and Gemini likes to do with
Yeah.
Venus and relating to other people, I think it's a great day to talk about feelings with other people or process things with people, with people that you trust, and even that Moon and Gemini trining Pluto a little later. Oh wait, but this is all happening in the middle of the night, so
It's all happening in the middle of the night, but we do, which I think is good though, because it's almost like the energy is kind of pushing us forward again, where it was like maybe feeling a little bit like dead air and, everything is kind of in quiet signs and, the chiller signs, more introverted yin signs. And now we're in, the extroverted Gemini, Aries kind of, so we're being propelled forward. Um, and then, so we just kind of wake up with that energy happening. We're able to go deep because we have Moon trine Pluto in the middle of the night. And then not until the evening though. So Moon is just kind of it's doing stuff, but I think it's moving pretty slow is what's kind of happening. The Moon will conjunct Jupiter and Gemini at 11. So there's that trigger
Mhm.
again to that Antisha.
Yep. Trigger to the Antisha. Jupiter is now direct at this point. It's moving forward now.
Hmm.
And it's triggering that Antisha. So definitely I think I do think that there's going to be a lot of external processing right now.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm
I
interested to see what kind of comes up that day, just with the moon kind of really activating that behind the scenes kind of thing. Maybe something's kind of exposed.
I think it's definitely exposure. I'm not seeing like intense conflict, like not.
No, this is not an intense conflict day, I don't think.
We have some nice sextiles. We have nine. We do have a conjunction, um, but it's in Gemini. I like to think that Gemini is mostly pretty conflict avoidant. It wants to keep things. It just wants to like deliver the information.
Yeah, it likes surface. It likes all of the options. It just wants the data. It doesn't care if it's true or not necessarily. That's like a really beautiful thing about having a moon in Gemini. Like I hear a whole bunch of stuff and I'm like, oh, I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter if it's true or not. But then, there's other parts of my chart that very much do care about whether something is verifiable.
But that makes it good. It's like a good filtration system. You're like, well,
Yes.
I'm just going to take the information in and then I'll let you know how I feel about it. But
So maybe that's very much what this day is, right? We're just taking in a lot of information, having lots of different conversations. Some of it may be true, some of it may be not. We're just kind of processing these different things. And then we
yeah.
and then we run into Friday, February 7th. This is a little bit more, it's kind of active, except for we have another void of course day. So this is do not start new things, do not go grocery shopping. But it doesn't mean that things aren't happening. It's just we don't necessarily need to take the initiative of starting something brand new on that day.
This feels like a day where there's going to be a lot of things happening to us rather than us trying to initiate things.
Yeah.
We've got Venus sextile Pluto early in the morning. Again, that's around 4:15 a.m. So we're gonna kind of wake up with that energy. Uh, And a nice, oh, there's another Gemini moon trine Mercury happening again, all most likely while we're still sleeping, or you'll just be waking up with this energy. Um, so again, a lot of like processing. We've got Venus and Aries, so again, very like cardinal activating energy with Pluto. So we're definitely kind of like digging deep into things, kind of starting to process, um, going deeper with that stuff. And then there's and then we've got the what do you think about the moon square Saturn did that we're gonna see that day? Because those are always a little like yeah.
Yeah.
that's
I
what we're,
mean,
that's like 6 a.m. So that's what we're all kind of waking up with is that moon square Saturn energy. But
yeah, I mean, I think with like the moon, in Gemini feeling, chatty, and it likes its freedom to go from place to place, and then it hits that Saturn where it's like, oh, okay.
yeah,
Buzzkill. That's what it feels like. It feels like a buzzkill.
buzzkill. I was gonna say buzzkill or burnout a little bit, especially with like these two mutable signs kind of interacting with each other. And we've got a lot of on that Thursday, there's a lot of again like external processing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
maybe just like waking up feeling a little burnt out, like a little bit information overload. Um,
Yeah.
and like that could be a buzzkill for sure.
Yes. I mean, Saturn moon aspects in general are a little bit more sobering and, stoic making, serious. So, and a moon in Gemini just wants to be a silly little clown. And, when when Saturn's there, it's like, no, you have to be serious. And you're like, fine, I'm serious now. Okay, I guess so.
Sid, is your internal life just as a silly little clown? Or are you just like,
Yeah, with like a lot of dark humor. I do have moon trine, Saturn, Pluto, Saturn. So like it can be dark, but I'm pretty silly.
who's the Pigliacci? Is that the sad clown? Do you know this? Are you
I know
Pigli?
who Pagliacci is. Great people in Seattle. Um, so we have
Gemini
in
and
the
Pisces.
morning though, so we get that kind of buzzkill, but then an hour later or an hour and a half later, we have Moon Sun trine. We
Hmm.
like that. That is very forward thinking, right? That moon in Gemini with the sun in Aquarius, like this is forward thinking, this is new ideas and the way to go forward. That it's a feel good aspect. So I would say that like Moon square Saturn, yeah, it's a buzzkill, but it's just for like an hour and ish. And then we get kind of a good good closing aspect before the void of course starts. So I think like the energy kind of maybe we wake up and then there's a little bit of a lift, like a little
And I
fit.
think if there's any sign that's good at dealing with like the square to Saturn to the trine the sun, I think a dualistic sign like Gemini can kind of hold that pretty well. It can
Yeah.
kind of, oh yeah, some things suck and some things are great. That's kind of how
They
Gemini.
love me. They love me. Yeah. Like
Exactly.
that.
LOL, let's go. So,
But then we get to later in the day. So void, of course, most of the day. So just kind of ride out that trine, try to feel good, try to be in a good space, good headspace, exploring different ideas. That's great. But then 8:15 p.m., Mercury in Aquarius quincunx that retrograde Mars in Cancer at 18 degrees.
and this is why you're going to want to write out those good feelings earlier in the day from that moon trine sun, because this is not a comfortable aspect. It's the quincunx between Aquarius and Cancer. Um, these two signs do not understand each other. I
No.
can't signs that have less in common. So we've got Mercury in Aquarius, so a lot of conversations around again communities, friendships, greater societal things, our role in society, and it's making a quincunx to again that freaking retrograde Mars in Cancer. I'm so sick of you,
I
Mars. I'm sick. But so there's definitely a conflict between conversations around progress and kind of forward thinking and community and kind of like our greater role as a society that's really rubbing up against in this really uncomfortable way this energy of safety and homeland security. You know,
Desire to maintain tradition.
yeah, it's
Like,
definitely like yeah, progressive versus traditionalism.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So these are and we've got a quincunx and we've got a fixed sign coming up with a cardinal sign that's in retrograde in Mars. So I'm definitely I think that there could be like a conflict point here, like an actual
Oh,
conflict.
100%. I mean, in Aquarius, even though it's fixed, it does want its freedom. It wants freedom for everybody. Whereas
Yeah,
like Mars and Cancer, it wants safety for its own.
exactly. Yeah.
That does not mean everybody.
Cancer is not concerned about freedom. Cancer is concerned about security. And
Security and safety,
just
always.
like you said, it's like I'm looking out for me and my family, or who I perceive as my family,
Mhm.
and my community are the people who think like me, um, who experience things the same way that I do, and
Yeah.
that's all that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's definitely a conflict point here. It's at 8:14 p.m. on Friday.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's going to be forming for, a few hours before that, right? So if we just consider that within 3 degrees for a quincunx to really start to be a little bit messy, we can consider that, probably starting around 5 p.m., we're going to start feeling some really uncomfortable vibes kind of showing up. And we don't really know how to address what's happening, and it could be that just something comes up. I mean, quincunxes can also mean a break, like things just break. It's not what is it, necessarily resolvable. I don't think this day is not resolved. We do not go to bed with resolution. The moon in Gemini squares Neptune later that evening, so that is just confusion. What happened? Why is
confusion.
this happening?
Yeah, you're gonna go to bed confused about why things played out the way they did. Um, so I would definitely take a look at, when Mercury is in Aquarius, where is that hitting your chart? As always, be mindful of what's going on with that Mars retrograde, what that's doing in your chart. So that's going to kind of point you toward where you might experience this conflict or this break, or just this incompatibility. If you are fortunate enough to be in conflict with somebody else whose chart that could also be helpful. But
Yeah,
yeah, there's a conflict here that's not necessarily meant to be resolved right now.
not
And
right now.
by squaring Neptune, talk about more just like tons of information just floating around in your brain, and you just don't know what to do with it, right? There can be a lot of rumination happening there.
Yeah, I definitely think that these are false dreams, like false delusions, kind of happening inside and having some sort of conflict. So I would definitely say, like, do not believe everything that you think in the evening. Like, this is not a time for resolution because, Saturday happens, February 8th. Finally, the moon goes home. She said, I am done with that. I am in Cancer. I'm at home. I'm back to security first, baby, and the void, of course, ends.
Now that could be good personally for you. With Moon going into Cancer, there could definitely be a drive to again just like get yourself cozy and think about what makes you feel safe. But
Yeah.
again, all of this is happening with that kind of like overhead view of Mars retrograde in Cancer,
Yeah.
uh, and that antitia with Jupiter. So
Mhm.
uh,
And
it,
moon is now co-present with Mars. So
yeah,
it kind of amplifies the like need for security. It feels emergent. It feels absolutely have to do it right now and needing to defend oneself, the moon Mars, just in general. Um,
myself, protect my land, protect my assets, protect my family. Um,
yeah,
there can be like a panic sense with that, right? Um,
yeah,
so, and obviously, again, we are just in a place societally. where a lot of us are feeling scared. So
Mhm.
I think that there could be some moments through this week where a lot of us, depending on your station in life, might feel really scared, and you might start thinking about, okay, how do I protect myself and my family? So
Mhm.
these are things to think about this week because, yeah, we have the propaganda machine going. We have a lot of scary stuff going on. So yeah. So while Moon likes being in Cancer, this could be a bit more of an urgent feeling with this Moon, especially with its.
Yeah, less cozy, certainly less safe than we would normally feel with Moon in Cancer, obviously depending on the person's chart. We do have at 8:30 a.m. Moon in Cancer square Venus in Aries.
Mhm.
So that's, also not necessarily a very it shouldn't necessarily be an uncomfortable aspect, but I do think it's an uncomfortable aspect because Venus in Aries really wants to go and do her own thing or Venus in Aries, pardon, wants to do her own thing. And Moon in Cancer is like, but my safety is paramount here. And it's trying to find some sort of way to have some sort of conversation, and they both want to do stuff. They're both cardinal, but
Mhm.
in the end, I think Venus in Aries wins, if only because it's the what's it called? The superior. It's in the superior position, I believe. I think I have to think about that a little
And
bit.
that would kind of reinforce what we're talking about with these kind of like urgent feelings of like protecting self and assets, right? If Venus in Aries is winning out with this square with Moon in Cancer, I think that
Yeah.
only serves to kind of accentuate some of the less charming qualities of Cancer, in that it's like, fuck all of you guys, fuck your society, I'm just out for my people and myself here, right? That's
Yeah.
very Venus and Aries, where it's like, I'm just going to do what's right for me. um when it's making that square with Moon and Cancer, me could also include just like the people that I've determined have been valuable, right?
Have you ever dated, just as an aside, have you ever dated a Venus in Aries?
Yeah.
Because
Oh my God. I love dating Venus and Aries. It's such a nightmare for me. I like, yes, definitively, yes, I have dated a Venus and
I
Aries.
have a lot of things to say about a Venus and Aries person in general because I haven't dated many Venus and Aries because I love Venus and Cancer. That's the Venus for me. But the Venus and Aries that I dated was so unbelievably selfish in terms of their needs and desires and wants. Like, and some of those things were the same things I wanted or needed, but like, whoo, bug.
You just get lucky
I
if
get
you.
lucky. Yeah, I got lucky that we had a similar what whew, yeah, not
I
great.
date people with Venus and Aries where there are other points in their chart, therefore other parts of their personality, where they really were a very kind and generous and thoughtful person. But that Venus and Aries, once you actually get into that partnership with them, they're like, okay, but this partnership is going to go the way I want it to go. Um, and it's, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, we're gonna
Or
see.
to anyone with a Venus and Aries listening to this, we do love you, but the thing that maybe you could work on is compromising with your partners.
Yeah, needing to learn compromising is super important. Okay.
And that might actually be a thing, that if you have Venus and Aries natally on Saturday, February 8th, if you're in partnership with someone and there is a conflict with that person that you were in partnership with, whether it's business partnership, a romantic partnership, you living with somebody, whatever, keep in mind that maybe you're being selfish. Just keep it in mind. Or wherever Venus is hitting in your chart again, because of this conflict. And again, I'm an Aries rising. No hate on Aries energy. I love Aries. Um, but
I mean,
definitely our
you
side
get
effect.
Venus in your first house, which is cute.
Yeah, yeah. So
So
wait, sorry.
like congrats. I said you get Venus in your first house,
Yeah.
So congrats.
Thank you.
He's cute.
I
You're
hope
gonna
that.
be good shit. But all day, I think that one of the biggest functions of this day is Mercury is Cazimi.
Mhm.
So when Mercury is Cazimi, we're using I would say the more generous definition here that I wrote down, which is within 1 degree of the sun. I think the super traditional method is 17 minutes, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
17 arc minutes of the sun. But this is a day where Mercury and the sun, Mercury kind of goes into the sun to be washed anew
Mhm.
into a new vision for its Mercury things, its messages, how it thinks, how it speaks, how, the messages it sends out into the world, how it communicates, travel, like cars, like all, Mercury means so many things. It's the messenger. Let's just talk about messages. And so when Mercury is done with this, he's like, I got a whole new message to me. And one of the things that we know about what's going on in the world is that the messages that are coming from our government, we still have to consider that Saturn is ruling, and Saturn is about our government. It is about the structures that our society holds. You know, Even though Aquarius can be more forward thinking, it is still trying to uphold parts of its structure, boundaries. Um, this it feels like a word that starts with an S, and I don't like it. And I'm just gonna say that. And I wonder what new messages, or it almost feels to me like in Mercury undergoing this like pressure wash of like the sun's
Love the
rays
pressure wash. I know that's great. The
of
pressure wash.
like beating off like all of these. It's like, now this is our message. And it's like, okay, this is our message, and it's such an early degrees after, Sun was with Pluto and Mercury with Pluto. This has to do with government. I think it has to do with the the brogliarchy.
Oh, the Brogliarchy. I like that.
I
The
think that there's something here.
Broligarchy. There we go.
Yeah. But a beautiful thing about the Kazemi is like there's like a purity of understanding that can happen within that moment. And so perhaps on Saturday, we collectively really, really understand what's going on,
Yeah.
if only for a day.
If
It's
only
like
for.
clear, succinctly crystal clear, like you tap a glass, it's like bing, and we all get it.
Yep. I think so. And just to keep in mind, just because, again, when we're talking about what was going on Friday, where there is this conflict point between Mercury and Aquarius and Mars and Cancer, that doesn't quite get solved that day. That's happening on Friday. And then we come into this Mercury Kazemi on Saturday. This might be a good time. Like, let yourself sleep for the night. Saturday, get up, and a lot of that stuff might start come into clarity, and we might start seeing some resolution, and I say that in quotation marks because again this isn't on, all of these are always ongoing stories, but
Yeah.
whatever specific issues came up that Friday, on Saturday we have that Mercury Kazemi where we could have that light bulb moment where we're like, oh, I see what's going on here.
Yeah. And it does hold like Mercury will now be when we go into Sunday, February 9th, Mercury will be separating from the sun. So now it goes forward with this new message. This is how it starts its Sunday. 4:08 a.m. So like no one's awake. Hopefully. Unless you partied actually. Um
Good to be up at that time.
yeah,
There can
but
be
what
magic that happens at that time, but
Yeah, but what we do have is an hour later, 5:14 a.m. Sunday, so super duper early, so if you're partying, you're still up. I think this aspect is important because it is going to hold for a while. I think it's going to hold pretty much throughout the day. We have that retrograde Mars in Cancer, trine Saturn in Pisces at 18 degrees. This is a two malefics saying exactly and doing what it wants to do. And when we have two malefics, even if they're in a harmonious aspect, we can use it for good or evil, right? Like you can get a lot done, you can kind of harness some energy and like really diligently work forward to your goals, or you can be real naughty with that energy and start to wreak havoc.
right. And I think that's important to keep in mind. Again, we're still in Aquarius season here. Um,
Mhm.
and so we're still having conversations about what roles we play in society. we already know that some people, particularly some people in power, we know what they're going to use that energy for. We know that already.
Mhm.
Like, I would be shocked if it went any other way. But we are all still existing in this structure as well. So we also get to harness that energy the same way that anyone else does. People in power, what have you. We're all going to be able to harness this energy. So I think it's an important conversation of what am I using this energy for?
Yeah. Yeah. If we consider that Aquarius season means that it's ruled by that Saturn in Pisces and it's averse, it can't see it. So it's like whatever actions are kind of collectively taken on doesn't necessarily mean it's actually for our own good. It is working against our true essence of like what we would really actually want to happen. So I think it's
But
cautionary.
Tisha happening, they're definitely going to be telling us it's for our own good, and that's where it's important to start discerning. They're gonna tell us it's for our own good. Don't believe them.
And then we have Moon conjunct Mars in Cancer at 18, thus further triggering that trine, probably just like more like stamping it into place. Like, I can't believe this is happening. Oh, it's happening, kind
Yeah.
of, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
That's like so the energy of like what the Trump presidency has been like, right? Where they're like, he's not going to do that. He can't get away with that. Oh, look, he's doing it. Okay, well, he did it, and now we're just
Yeah.
going to move on. He already did it. That's very much what that kind of like Moon conjunct Mars energy can be like. We've got the trine to Saturn where it's like, oh no, he's going to do it. Oh, yep, he did it. Kind of,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And then the void of course begins again. So whatever that energy is, it's just kind of I think just flowing through and I don't know. I don't like it. I when I see two malefics in harmony, like when I see it in a natal chart, I'm like, man, I really hope they use that energy for good because otherwise it's like everything could be going wrong in their life. It just over and over again because it flows without any sort of interruption. And so I'm just, Mars and Cancer has been so naughty
Oh no,
for our country in particular. And so
our country is a sun in Cancer, so it's important
yeah,
that Cancer is a significant sign for the United States as a whole.
yeah,
So not surprising that it's having this impact on us.
yeah, yeah. And then we kind of end the day with Moon sextile Uranus and Taurus. So there's that that food thing. Oh, we do have Moon Square Chiron, 2 p.m. So we have to back up a little bit. 2 p.m. Moon Square Chiron. That's an emotional ouchie.
Ouchies, ouchie, ouchies.
Sensitivity. Something struck like some sort of nerve. We are feeling sensitive about something. So it's like maybe whatever actions are taken, especially if we consider the moon in a mundane chart is the people, right? So now we're feeling hurt.
Yeah.
So it kind of just indicates to me, I don't know, just the story that's being told here is that whatever this flowing energy is, it is not for the people's highest good.
No. But I do think that it could be a good opportunity to, um, and this doesn't feel good. It's not necessarily meant to feel good, but the reminder that we are all a collective family, and this may be a good time to actually um, try to understand the pain. If you're not a person who's personally affected by a lot of the things going on right now, um,
Mhm.
there are a lot of people that you love who probably are, and this would be a good time to start. This would be a good time to empathize and actually
Mhm.
those, what those feelings are like to experience for other people.
Or to extend that protective feeling towards a more collective future,
I believe
right?
it
So,
all deserve protection.
yeah, like spread we do, but like to spread our what is like our aura influence
Yeah.
to include more people, more humans that like we want to extend that care and protection to everyone and everything, the
Mhm.
whole universe, and not just to our little microverse.
Right. Exactly. And the truth
So,
is, like, that is reality, right? You don't get to pick and choose. We are all collectively in this together, whether you choose to acknowledge it or not. So, moon sextile Uranus is kind of like, hey, this is
yeah.
happening.
Yeah. And then we can also can't forget, I didn't write it on our notes, but 6 p.m. moon quincunx Mercury.
So,
So,
again, another quincunx,
yeah.
another break or incompatibility. Um,
I think it's also like be careful what you say in
and that's
these.
that's kind of the theme of the whole week, right? Be careful what you say. Be careful what you hear.
Yeah,
Um,
I just think that particular little that moon square Chiron and then the moon quincunx Mercury is like, it's 4 hours apart, so it's like you feel really sensitive and then you say something and it's like perpetuates more strife or actually some sort of break within like your community, within, whatever structure you have kind of set up in your life. Yeah, that maybe impacts, your feeling of safety, of security with whatever is being discussed. So it's just a good time to be mindful of
and
the thoughts.
I think that's kind of a good overview of the week is be careful what you say, be careful what you hear. And I think that there's going to be kind of this culmination of, um, you know, where are we extending in terms of like wanting to feel a sense of safety, um,
Yeah.
protective, who are we extending that to? Um, is this a time that we need to just look out for our own, or is this a time where we need to start thinking more collectively?
Yeah, I do think whether we're literally being asked, like maybe even begged by the universe to
Thanks.
like to flare our lenses open to include more people and to be in more of a collective energy. But there's just a lots of fits and stops to that because, traditionally through our various cultures, we've been told that it's just about like either our family unit only or literally just our country only for that nationalism, but it doesn't extend to more people. But we are having so many conversations about borders and who belongs here and who doesn't. And we need to get real right that we are all like just humans on this earth because we're going to see a lot more fractures and fissures should we not get right with that program real soon.
I mean, we all do share a common ancestor. We're all the same species, and I think that's an important message of Cancer energy as well. Cancer speaks
Yeah.
to ancestors, and ultimately, we all do share a common ancestor.
Yeah.
So it's time to start acting like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Any final thoughts? I think that's a pretty good button
yeah,
for
I think that's a good button.
weird.
Yeah, definitely. I would say like there's conflicts here, and these conflicts are not necessarily going to be wrapped up with a nice, pretty bow that by the end of the week. We got to look at
Yeah.
in the week after. Um, and so
Yeah,
just
it's kind of unsettled vibes. You're right. Like once we get to Sunday evening, it's not settled, and so it's almost like get comfortable being uncomfortable, maybe even just mentally unsettled.
yeah, 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 get comfortable with being mentally unsettled. And again, just a reminder, Wednesday we've got that whole day of things being void, of course. If you need a break from all of the mental processing or from the conflicts, Wednesday's the day to do it.
Yep.
Um, Otherwise, yeah, just get ready for a lot of information and particularly a lot of information that you have to be wary of.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean it's all going to be untrue, but it's just going to be up to you to figure out what is real and what is not.
Yeah, we got to sift. Sifting is important.
Yep, yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep. That's the
All
week.
right. So we'll see you next week.
See you next week. Hopefully, we're going to see some conflict resolution or something, but you'll just have to watch and find out.
All right, y'all. Take care.